You Booked It, episode 40. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Mic Thompson. Are you ready for this, Mic?
Yes, I am.
All right. Mic began dancing at the age of 10, and by the time he was 15, he was named the U.S. Ballroom Latin Champion. Soon after, Mic's career took off, where he began dancing with his favorite recording artists, including Michael Jackson for 8 years, Diana Ross, Paula Abdul, Winona Judd, Vanessa Williams, Tracy Ullman, and Jennifer Lopez. He was a regular on the Dick Clark's TV series Your Big Break, Comedy Central's The Man Show, and Jay Leno's The Tonight Show. Mic was also featured on the films Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Majestic, The Wedding Planner, Dance With Me, and as the lead ballroom dancer in the Disney film Enchanted. His choreography can be seen around the globe at the Lido de Paris, Disney's Tarzan, award-winning shows in Mexico, China, on-board Carnival Cruise Lines, and the national tour of Dolly Parton's Hello, I'm Dolly. Mic is a sought-after choreographer for dozens of celebrities and commercial clients. Now, once theaters open back up, Mic is looking forward to the opening of the West End London new musical, The Leopard Song, where he works as the head choreographer. The highlights of his career include being selected as Choreographer of the Month for the special Millennium issue of Dance Spirit magazine and winning a nomination for Swinging on a Star for Best Choreography from the NAACP. Mic, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, if you will. Who you are, where you're from, where you're currently calling home, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Well, thanks so much for letting me be one of your guests. And I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit more about this story that I believe was a big dream come true in a colorful life story. So this is all starting from when I was young. As you mentioned, I was a ballroom dancer. But once I received the championship, I really didn't know what to do with my career. And then I was told that there was a dance world out there in Las Vegas for people that are tall and can dance, like myself. So next thing I know it, I graduated from high school young. I graduated as a sophomore. And I asked my mom and dad if I could go ahead and start my career. And they were skeptical, but I was the youngest of 5, and I just knew how to get my way. So they agreed. Otherwise, I would have just been sitting around in Modesto, California, without going to school, which wasn't going to be a pretty picture either. So they said, go ahead. And then I went to Las Vegas, started dancing in the big extravaganzas, because back then they had, every hotel in Las Vegas had what they call an extravaganza, which had between 50 male dancers minimum in each of them. So the town was full of male dancers. Now, the style of dancing was not what you saw in New York, musical theater, or in ballet or tap, not even in Los Angeles jazz. It was its own, it had a mix of everything, but it was a style that a ballroom dancer could pick up if you had some extra oomph to learn a new style. So by letting go of my partner, I let my upper body get funky, and the choreographer, his name was Ronnie Lewis, was known for the funkiest choreographer in Las Vegas at the time. So this style was easy for me to catch on to. And within 5 days, I was already cast and plugged into the rehearsals for a extravaganza called Casino de Paris. So this is what brought me out of my ballroom career into the jazz element, musical theater, and then everything kind of just started blooming from there. Once you got that training and that experience from Las Vegas, I was then able to touch my foot to Hollywood, where I began living with my brother and staying in his apartment while I scooped ice cream at Haagen-Dazs. Well, soon after that, Debbie Allen and some of the cast from Fame TV show appeared at the Haagen-Dazs store in which I was scooping ice cream. And as I was scooping their ice cream, I was, trying to pitch myself, saying, "Oh, I'm a dancer," and this and that and that. Well, come to find out, she asked me to go to the MGM studios the following day to be an extra for one of their scenes. I was thrilled, and the cast that was there at the Haagen-Dazs actually agreed to pick me up on the corner which the ice cream store was the next morning to take me to MGM. Even though I was an extra, they were being kind enough to bring me over there. So as we drove down to MGM, I went my way, they went their way. I did the scene as an extra, but by the end of the day, Debbie Allen and Otis Salih, who was her assistant, walked me down the streets of the MGM studios to another studio and opened up the big, huge doors. And there the Fame dancers were practicing the routine for what they were going to film for that episode. And it was Rock and Roll Romeo and Rock and Roll Juliet songs, really, really cute. And they told me that I'm now going to be part of this group. So the big Hollywood story that came to life was meeting Debbie Allen on Hollywood Boulevard, scooping ice cream, and the next thing you know, within 2 or 3 days, I was a regular on the TV show Fame. And now, mind you, these dancers were divas. They were technically trained in every way. So for me to come in there with the little training I had, but had a lot of energy, I was told that my part was going to be the one that looked like I was trying really, really hard, but I had personality that overdid everybody. And that's what they needed for the show. And so this was my little tag into LA. So whenever you saw Mic Thompson at an audition, you would see a guy smiling so hard that you wouldn't even watch the dancing because you're fascinated by this guy doing more personality for there as an audition piece, which was not a bad thing. And so again, now I'm up with I'm working with the bigwigs in Los Angeles, but being not as technical, I was able to make up for energy and personality. And this is what I'm trying to convey to you guys out there, is that there's going to be a way for you to enjoy your career that's going to make you stand out in the crowd, so to speak. So this is kind of like my little reputation, in which then it eventually led to doing TV shows, and then Michael Jackson, as you mentioned, and that's how I became popular in Los Angeles. And this is a big Hollywood dream come true for me, because it still is going on as we speak. What couple of things I didn't tell you about was that I'm currently on the TV show for Showtime, Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. I was in 7 episodes this last season. There's a group of us that were all cast as dancers, and we did the full TV series. And then coming out, I believe in October, you'll be seeing the musical, The Prom, on Netflix with Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman. And this was a musical that was on Broadway, and they turned it into a film. And I was one of the New York guests, so you'll see me plenty in the opening 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. I definitely was, we were overacted, we were very animated, because it's a campy film, so it was really, really fun to do. And so these are the types of movies and films that I'm actually continuing doing even at this time in my life, because now I'm in my 50s.
Yeah, that's amazing. Your career is just absolutely bonkers. And I love having this opportunity to chat with you about it and have you share that story and your insights uh, in this industry. But let's move on to this next section. And look, I am a sucker for a good quote.
Okay.
What is your favorite quote that you'd like to share with everyone?
Be of good cheer is always the best quote for me because it's simple and it just always just is a nice quote that I say to myself when I just feel like I'm thinking too much about something that we all we're thinking, and so why take a time that's thinking that's not necessarily happy? So be a good cheer, and I love that quote. It just turns things around instantly for me.
Absolutely, I love that. And let's move to this part. And of course, Mick, you are an amazing entertainer. I am an entertainer, and I think that you would agree that this industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, can also be one of the most personally emotional industries that we experience. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you've had your entire life, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, we have a lot of fun and there's loads of excitement being on stage, being on film, there are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures that are inevitably going to come up and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure that you experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Well, I would think that the way things I handled everything in the 80s and 90s was that I didn't take any type of cut as a negative thing. I was always looking at, well, that's one that the other kids got on me, that Heavenly Father, and because I always believe that this entertainment is blessed, and I always like to think that who is being cast is meant to be there, and so you want to be excited and happy for them, and that totally eliminates the depression or the sadness you feel about being cut or and having something turn into a hard situation for yourself. Now it's easier said than done because sometimes I know it's hard when you're really pushing for something, or if you really want a part that's really bad, or you want to dance in this movie or in this commercial, and you don't get the part, then you will look around and sometimes just go, but I did better than this person. I know I did better than this person, but in LA,
Yeah,
in LA, it's always just going to be about the look of who the casting people see fit to represent their product. That's the end of the story. You don't. It
absolutely.
doesn't matter what you look like or anything. Now, when you're dancing as a dancer, that's going to be about your look, your body type, and your dancing, not necessarily your personality because you're backup dancing. So you don't want to assign too much. Because then you'll be like, okay, get out of my way. You're in the back line now. But take, for instance, on Solid Gold or Fame or these TV shows where the dancers have featured, that's where you got to live your personalities and make sure that you are defined as a character in the show. So you are constantly thinking about facial presentation. And that's a big thing for me. Maybe it's because of one of the first things I ever heard from a audience participant, audience member that watched me perform when I was 10 was that, oh my gosh, you smile all the time. It's so noticeable. It's a really a likable trait. And I just took that right away and used that. That key
Yeah,
for me was people like to see smiles. And I noticed that I don't see that as a lot. I see diva dancing on television these days, amazing, champion level, beyond champion, and yet they do not smile or care as much to perform, to let us into their hearts and souls by their facial allowance. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm just saying because,
absolutely.
okay? So this, this is what I try to always emphasize when I'm teaching. And this is why I'm a Disney animator choreographer as well. As you know, I've been choreographing for the Disney company since 1993. I've been used as in Yo Gabba Gabba as Muno. I'm the original Muno. I did Scales the Dragon for The Little Mermaid for Jim Henson. And also, I'm called in to be a choreographer and a dancer, on a talent dancer that's being hired to be hooked up onto these knobs and pasties and ticks and tacks all over my body, which pick up animation movement from my dancing, and they place them in certain Disney projects such as California Adventure, World of Color. You'll see my dancing and my body movements displayed in lots of the characters that you'll see in that show. Things like this. So this is why at this time in my life, I'm an animation motion picture capture specialist. So when I look at challenges and failures, I have to admit that you'll come across the people that you don't just jive with, and that's a sign of saying, don't put your energy here, okay? Because there's plenty of people that like the energy and they would love more of it here. So it may not be the money road, but it's going to be the road that's going to be infested with people that want to absorb what you have to offer. And it's going to be a positive experience, and it will turn out to be where you need to put your time and so you'll never feel that failure.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you've essentially inverted the entire situation and you've turned it all into either a lesson or positivity and support for your fellow artists and dancers. And through that, it has created a more fulfilling artistic life for yourself.
It's so true. Because at the end of the day, in my heart, I believe that talent and art are gifts that we get from above, and that we're to use them in the light and not the dark, and that's going to bring people out to enjoy their gifts as well as entertaining those to watch our gifts. And if you're given this gift, it's going to be utilized if you just go to the journey where the light is shining, if that makes any sense. And not keep trying to, there's too many people that are just trying to block that because they want this chunk or they want this chunk. But instead of just finding those other places, those other outlets to be called, you don't want to be thinking about where you should be or who's in the way of you doing this on your own.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to this next section now, to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time that you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Well, I know exactly the time and the place where this spotlight incident happened to me. I was 17 years old, and I was hired to go to the World's Fair, outside the World's Fair, in a place called Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to do a show at the IMAX theater where they had this rising stage, and you danced in front of a video screen. It was like, wow. And there was singing in it, but we were lip syncing. So it was a dancer singing job, which I really wanted to do, but I didn't have the voice. So for you get a chance to lip sync and act and even talk over other words was another phase of personality expression. So my mother and father came to see me in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I just remember being on the side stage doing my Pop Goes America, and knowing that my mom was down there, I felt this rush of a spirit just letting me testify that said, this is what your mom and dad are going to be proud of you are, because here you are dancing and singing, and it's this, it's a spiritual, uplifting, fun, happy country show, and I just knew that they were delighted. And my mom and I think I started crying up there because the spirit was so strong to me to give me that spotlight testimony that I'm doing the right thing.
I love that story. It's so good. And let's piggyback on that question and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. I mean, walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if those happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life? And what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Well, I would like to say that the booked it moment would have been the Michael Jackson experience. because,
Yeah.
but I was best friends with the choreographer, and therefore he never ever tried to get me into the Michael Jackson thing until he became the choreographer. Lavelle Smith was Michael Jackson's backup dancer. He's the other guy that was right next to Michael since he left his brothers, and he and I became best friends since we met on the Academy Awards the year that we were together. We became roommates, and I remember him coming home and telling me that he just booked the Michael Jackson tour with 4 other friends of mine. And so he was always doing his own thing, but in 1993, he became Michael Jackson's lead choreographer. So then he asked me, he goes, Mick, I really want you to audition, but if you audition for Michael, there's only one thing, you've got to be better than them all, because everybody knows we're best friends, and if I give you the job but you're not the best, they'll go, see, they're just friends, that's why. So,
Yeah,
no
of
pressure, right?
course.
Once I got onto the job and we did our first presentation, Michael Jackson then booked me as his shadow dancer, which is a spot that you do not book from the choreographers. This is the choice that Michael Jackson chooses. And that I was able to, from Michael Jackson's point of view, book the spot as his spotlight. Now, I mean, as the background shadow. And this is the placement on stage where you are always on camera. You're always in every picture. You're just the shadow. So it was a beautiful place to go, but I had to dance just like Michael. And this is a booked memory that will always be special to me.
That is amazing. I can only imagine that is such an incredible experience to dance with Michael Jackson.
It was. I mean, now we're talking now. So now here I was. Now I'm doing jazz. I'm doing all of these curly hair blonde surfer movies and being used for my California look. But now I'm asked to do Michael Jackson, and I didn't really even know if I got that funky, right? And Lavelle's like, I'm not worried about that. I know you can get funky. So when I went to the audition, I just relaxed, and I kind of didn't want to put any pressure on me. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to mimic what they do, So it was kind of like a sarcastic mimic moment, like, I gotcha. And just kind of like if somebody was trying to mimic me, they would be going all hyper and everything. And I've seen it done. But this one, I just did it. But it seemed to work because it put me down on this different kind of a, because Michael Jackson is not necessarily hard as it is stylized and sharp. So this is why I was able to do this without being a diva ballerina or diva tap dancer and stuff like that. We had those within the cast, but my part was just to dance, and I didn't really have to, do much of that. I had a good extension at that time, so I do a couple of bop mods and layouts and stuff, but that was about my my bag of tricks. Anyway, I'm just saying for me to be in that environment with these dancers that were coming from all types of backgrounds, but united together during the Michael Jackson style, it was a major blow to me because that energy was surrounded everywhere, and everyone was so nice. The cast that he actually had were just, we became a family for sure, and Michael Jackson, his energy was always positive, never cruel. He never smart mouthed to anybody. He never showed his divaness. He was just, he was great. His energy was very positive and loving and talented. I mean, he mostly thought about his music and his part. He just always knew that we were going to be on it on our own. He didn't have to worry about us. This was what was happening with me for about 9 years. I was also in the mini movie called Ghost, Michael Jackson's Ghost, which they cast me as they cast me as Uncle Creepsley. So you'll see me in there quite a lot. I've got a lot of fun shots in that, and the choreography is off the hook in that video. If you really want to see some jamming choreography, check out Ghost.
Fantastic. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present.
Okay.
What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, we are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Well, it's going viral. It seems like everybody's jumping on the viral wagon, which I have not put my heart and soul into because that takes away from the connection in which I believe I'm meant to be. I'm going to keep myself open for more personal travels, whether they're social distancing conferences, but I get a chance to go and everyone's in their own space, but the convention's big enough to hold a bunch of dancers so I can be there live for them. But that would be but I guess to answer that, I'm staying within the children's musical theater genre of I think for the rest of my career. I love the children's musicals. I've been doing them a lot in China, and the company Town Square Productions, which is the company from Don Franz, he has partnered with the same company I've been working with in China for the last 9 years to bring all those same musicals that we've been doing in China, such as Sinbad, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Aladdin and the Genie Lamp, Pinocchio. We're bringing the same musicals I've worked on in China to New York at his children's theater that they are building in New York with social distancing in mind. So it's going to be a new type of a children's theater. And he has partnered with them, and they've asked me to be the choreographer for these musicals. So it will be an in-house permanent position for me, which I haven't had, I don't think, since I began my career.
Yeah, fantastic.
So the future for me is in the musical theater, such as the West End London, and also for the children's musical theater, which I work with in Korea, China, Reno, and New York.
Fantastic. And let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
Oh, no.
I am going to ask you a handful of questions, and I want you to answer them quickly and concisely, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do it. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
My life as a young Mormon.
Great. And second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
That your smile illuminated the floor. Please keep smiling.
Love it. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Bringing animation and movement to children and kids around the world through musical theater training.
Love it. Fourth question. What is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
Mary Poppins, Step in Time.
Love it. Fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would have kept it exactly the same.
Love it. And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Shake it up, don't shake it down, and give it away, don't grab it.
Love it. And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do we connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Well, please stay connected to my channel, which is Mic Thompson Choreography channel on YouTube. And I would love for you to subscribe. It will be posted up, all the stuff that comes up and things that, mostly just my work I put on there. So it's not confusing as to what is my choreography. But, and that's about it. I have only that resource that I use, and my Facebook pretty much because I use my own promotions. I promote myself through LinkedIn and Facebook.
Fantastic. Well, Mick, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on.
Well, it's my pleasure too, Dane, and I'm greatly appreciative for you to ask me to be part of your podcast series and on today's episode. It's great to know that you're there with Lisa, and I miss you guys.
We miss you. Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.